In this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 reasons why you need a niche if you're going to do business and build your business on social media. It's such a mind-blowingly important conversation because you have to understand how these platforms work and why it's so critical for you to have a target market if you're going to play on these platforms, what will happen if you don't, and exactly how to do that. This is one of the biggest mistakes most coaches make because they don't understand the rules of the playground that they want to play in. So don't make that mistake because your business literally cannot survive if you want to use social media. Do you need a niche? I really prefer I don't know what to call it. Is it the European pronunciation, or is it just the gentleman pronunciation of niche and not niche?
Niche sounds like something that I would get from lice. You know what I mean? Like,
I love how that's the immediate example you gave. That's amazing. So now I will never, ever again, you have sufficiently cleared me of my waffling back and forth between niche and that other way. So do you need a niche? Do I need a target market? Who's your seeker? There are many different ways to talk about this conversation. And it's essentially, do you need a specific person to market to if you want to build a coaching business? We did a conversation on niching in general, and we'll put a link up here and put a link in the description to what was kind of part 1 of this conversation. And we really want to dive into social media because obviously that's a huge issue in today's world. Not issue, but it's a huge platform. It's a way so many people communicate. And so in this video, we're going to break down social media specifically, which begs the question, first of all, do you even need social media? Right? Just because a lot of people are doing it doesn't mean you necessarily need it. You know, I've had, I think, 3 people in the last week tell me that they've completely gone off of social media. And my immediate response to each one of them was, oh, so you're a happier person now. That's what I heard, right? So you're a happier person. And they all said yes, actually.
yeah.
But if you're trying to build a business, social media is one of the ways that so many people build businesses. And it's one of the reasons, honestly, that I haven't left social media entirely, especially Facebook, because there are many reasons that social media doesn't contribute to my happiness on the planet. But there are a lot of reasons to stay on it. There are a lot of reasons to stay relevant and stay visible to a lot of our seekers who are on social media. So that's my business reason for choosing. I mean, I like some of the personal reasons too, but the essential question from a business standpoint is, do you need to be on social media? Do you need to market on social media to build a successful coaching business? And so the answer is no, you don't really need to. It is possible. I mean, first of all, before social media, there were a bunch of people building businesses. So there were plenty of foundational ways before the invention of social media, which means there are ways to do it. And those ways haven't gone away. So you don't actually need to do it. You can just do belly-to-belly marketing. You can do phone calls. You can do direct emails. You can jump on other people's platforms that already have a following, whether it's social media or in person or whatever. We're not going to dive too deep into what you can do off of social media in this video. But the short answer is you don't necessarily need to be on social media, especially if you won't do it. I mean, I don't know how many times we've been, I've heard myself say, or I've heard you say some version of, the right thing to do is the thing you'll do.
Right.
So do you need to be on social media? Are you going to do it? No. Then no, you don't need to be on social media. Do I need to be on LinkedIn if I'm already on Facebook? If LinkedIn is the thing that you're not going to do, then no. If video is something that you're not going to do, then no. If you're going to do it, you have the willingness to do video, and then the question is, should I or not? Then the answer is yes. If you have the willingness, then do the thing that's going to give you more efficiency most of the time. But if you just haven't gotten over that hump for whatever reason, then just let it go. You know, we were just having this conversation with one of our clients, and She was talking about doing a podcast. Like, and you know, I've done a ton of podcasts with interviews, but I haven't done any of these podcasts with just myself, the solo podcast. And I asked, why do you want to do the solo podcast? And she just essentially said, because somebody said I should. And it sounds pretty cool. So we had this conversation of, just because it's possible, if you're not going to do it, doesn't mean it's not a requirement, right? So whatever you'll do.
I just said, yeah, it's not possible for you if you're not going to do it.
Right. So having said that, if social media is something that you are willing to do, then yes, because social media has billions of people on it. So if you don't participate in social media, you are disconnecting from literally billions of people. But just because there's billions of people doesn't mean you necessarily need to do it. And if you need to become somebody different than who you really are to attract people on social media, then I would say don't do it, because you don't want to attract a bunch of people with some version of yourself that you aren't. And then, you know, try to have fun in your business. That's just not going to work. So for the purposes of the rest of this video, we're going to assume that your answer is yes to social media. And then the question is, do you need a niche on social media? And the short answer is yes. Yeah. If you want attention. So I had this awareness probably a couple of years ago, as I was just thinking about the way the world is changing. And that was even before pandemic and, you know, quarantines and restrictions and all this stuff. Because that has fundamentally changed the way humans consume information.
Right.
And the relationship that people have with online and social media and Zoom and all the things that we've grown accustomed to. But even before that, I think the world is shifting in many ways because of social media and because of social media marketing specifically. Mm-hmm. And what so many coaches are focused on is everything after getting somebody's attention. So they're focused on what should the download be, and how do I deliver the download, and what should we follow up with them or with, you know, what should I put in my email follow-up, and what should I price my packages, and how do I message, and what should I have on my website? And all those things are important.
Yes.
But if nobody knows about you, none of them matter. It's like having this house with just the most immaculate furnishings inside, and nobody knows the house exists.
Right.
So in that vein, I can easily make the argument that getting somebody's attention is the most important ingredient, because without it, nothing else matters. Now, all of these other ingredients are important in their own rights, and I could probably make the argument that every one of them is the most important from a different angle, you know, from a different filter. But if you don't get somebody's attention, then everything else really doesn't matter. And so if we're looking at social media and asking ourselves, do we need a niche? The question really needs to be filtered through, can I get people's attention without one? And the answer for pretty much everybody, especially if you don't already have this brand recognition, is no. Like, a lot of people are following giants. You know, they're following Jack Canfield and Tony Robbins and Lisa Nichols and, you know, so many organizations that actually were around before social media. So they had a brand established. I was around before social media, not for very long, but I created a pretty good following without social media. It didn't exist when I first started. So I was able to take the things that I learned off of social media and add social media as a tool. Well, most people nowadays start on social media. And that's one of the reasons that it becomes so difficult for so many people to get traction, because social media should be a scaling tool, not a survival mechanism, meaning you don't go to social media, or you shouldn't go to social media to see if you have a viable product or not.
Right.
That's not the best way to engage in social media. But once you have a viable product, you know what people will purchase, you know how to deliver, you've got testimonials, like you've got, in traditional business, they call it proof of concept. When you have proof that your concept is valid and your concept is valued because people will buy it, then what can you do to scale people's attention? What can you do to scale your attraction? So in social media, or in this conversation as it relates to social media, the two options are specialization or generalization, right? Specialization is niche. You have something specific, specificity. Generalization is no specificity. I can help everybody.
Right.
And this is the thing that so many coaches struggle with. We dove into that a lot more in the first conversation that I think we already put a card on for, and we'll post that link down in the description. So we dove deep into the mindset of why we resist this. So we don't want to go over that whole thing again here, but there's a lot of resistance to just the idea of creating specificity, and we just want to help everybody.
Right.
The problem with that is, well, before I get into the problem with it, let me give you an example. So an example could be how to be more confident. Mm-hmm. And people might think that, somebody who wants to be a trainer or a coach or something, recognize that they increase their confidence a whole lot. And so they want to teach other people how to be confident, which is really what I wanted to do in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to teach it to athletes. So I had some specificity on it, but I wanted to be confident. And if you want to teach confidence, that's great. But I want you to imagine you're on the computer. I'll put myself in this context, but I want you to imagine whatever fits for you, as you're watching or listening to this. If I'm on the computer and I'm looking for more confidence, and I see a video that says how to raise your confidence, and then I see another video right next to it that says how to raise your confidence as a man, which one will I probably click? I will click the second one, because it sounds more like it could be talking to me. And in today's world, we're not interested in wasting time. So I don't want to, whether I'm conscious of this or not, most of us have a decision-making mechanism in our brain that wants to prevent the waste of time. So I'm not sure that first video is meant for me. How to raise your confidence. What if it's not? And I don't want to waste that 7 minutes or 70 minutes or any amount of time, but this one sounds like it's actually for me. And then if I look at this one and it says how to raise your confidence as a man, but then there's another video right next to it that says how to raise your confidence as a married man, right? I'm choosing option number 3 now. Right. And then if there's another video right next to it that says how to raise your confidence as a married man in his 40s, I'm going for video number 4. Right. So the more specificity that we add, the more attractive it is to the person looking for it. We have to see from their angle as much as possible. Yes. And if we can't get their attention, then as I said, it really doesn't matter what's in that first video of how to raise your confidence from a general perspective. If I don't watch the video, then it can't help me. Mm-hmm. And if it can't help me because I don't watch the video, then that information is useless to me. Right. So just this awareness of how we search for things is really important. And that requires us to take a look at social media marketing from a different perspective. Now, there is one area or one extreme benefit and value to doing nicheless. We have to put that on a shirt or start adding that into our vocabulary. Nicheless activities. Right. The nicheless activities are just the more general activities, right? There's extreme value in those activities, but it's really to build some kind of muscle internally. So we tell our clients all the time, just do the videos, especially early on in the process. Do the videos, write the blog posts, do the podcast. There's nothing that we can do to help you build muscles that require activity without the activities. Mm-hmm. So there are certain lessons that you have to learn that can only be learned by doing the activities. Now, whether you have specificity or generality in those activities, it really doesn't matter, because the point is to build the muscles. The point is to get used to publishing something, hating what you see, recognizing that, you hate the sound of your voice, or recognizing that your eyes are actually not like they don't even look like each other, or that they're not balanced, or that your one ear is bigger than the other. Like I've had all of those. Those are just memories of me coming back, right? Those are none of those are theoretical, by the way. there are muscles that we need to build that require us to create something, not like it, understand what we need to shift. And a lot of those muscles have nothing to do with the content actually in the video. But most people don't recognize that. Most people don't have this set of activities with the recognition that these activities are really just to build my muscles. They're not to get clients. And so from that perspective, the nicheless activities are fine, but we've just got too much of a microwave mentality that we think everything that we need to do is supposed to get something back in return. And that prevents people from doing the work that is designed to just build the muscles because they want to get the money. So we're going to dive into 3 reasons why you should niche on social media. But before that, if there's anything you want to add, Michelle, please do.
Yeah, I also think that the nicheless activities are the path to the niche oftentimes.
That's a great point.
So I was thinking when you were talking about all the stuff that I wrote and published, the posts that I made, the blog articles, the videos that I did early on that were just generally, right, about self-love. And it's through all of those actions and all of the conversations and all the things that I've written and posted that have me at the specificity that I am at now. So it's important to understand that it is like, it's part of the journey, but there's so many coaches who get stuck in demanding that everything that can only be learned on the other side of action be learned and implemented and polished and perfected before they take the action.
Amen to all of that. So I really love the niche-less activities are quite often what allows you to find the niche. And that was certainly my journey as well. I won't go into that now. So let's dive into, but if you do want to hear about it, we'll put a link or a card or somewhere so that you can hear my whole journey and how it played out for me. I think it's really important to understand people's origin stories, not just what we see from people now, but how did they start? And what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of these general teachers out there started with very, very tight niches for a long time before they went general. So 3 reasons why you should niche on social media. The first one is it's just human nature. It's the way our brains work.
Right.
And it's the way our brains are being explicitly programmed now. I don't know how long it's been since the marketing world has started chasing us. Maybe 7 years or so. I think I remember maybe as far back as 10 years ago, the idea of cookies in a marketing standpoint online, digital cookies.
Okay, I was like,
not vegan cookies or
I
vegetarian
remember cookies
cookies.
chasing you.
Yeah. Are there vegetarian cookies?
There are a lot of vegetarian cookies. Yeah.
But not any good ones?
There are a lot of good vegetarian cookies.
Okay. So the idea of cookies on the internet is, now we see them, whether they're called cookies or not, although that's usually what the notifications are now. I see those almost every time I go to a website, right? Like you have to accept our cookies. And so now we're even knowing the term, but even before the word, we would search for something on Google. And then like we search for, outdoor patio furniture. And then we go to Facebook or we go to a different website and we see a bunch of ads for patio furniture. Yeah. That's because those cookies are chasing us now. Once upon a time, that was novel inside of the last 10 years, but now it's expected. So we go to Amazon and we buy something and then Amazon tells us what we should buy next.
Right.
And it says things like customers like you buy this, or
right.
people that buy this product also buy that. So now they throw in social proof and fear of missing out. And I want to be like the tribe. And,
right.
so a lot of these deeper primal desires are built into it now. So we are being programmed to seek information that is specific to us.
Yes.
And because we've been programmed that way for a while, we are now expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, there's plenty of times when I go on Amazon or I'll go on Netflix or something, and I won't scroll anything other than recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going outside of the thing that they're telling me I should look at. And that's because that's what I'm used to. And that's what I'm demanding. But Netflix can't tell me what I would probably like unless they know who I am, unless they know my preferences.
Right.
So the human brain already works this way, but the marketed human programming, the human programming that's been marketed to for a long, long time, has been conditioned this way.
That's right.
And what's so interesting, I just had this thought earlier today, is that most of the coaches that I see that are resisting specificity, I've never asked this to the coaches because it's just an early thought today, but I do want to ask whenever this comes up. And we'd love for any of you that are watching, listening to this, tell me if this is true for you. The people that are resisting the specificity are searching with specificity. So I only want to teach how to raise my confidence, but when I go to Google and I type in what I'm looking for, I will probably put how to raise my confidence as a man or as a married man. So most of us will search with a lot more specificity than what we teach with or what we want to teach with. I mean, just that right there is like, all of us are a seeker for something. So
Right.
Why wouldn't we give the answers in the same way we search for answers? So follow your fingers. Yeah. What are your fingers typing? And whatever your fingers are typing is probably based on the way the human brain works, because it's the way your human brain works.
Right.
And if that's your experience as a seeker, then be aware that that's probably just about everybody's experience as a seeker. They're typing with specificity. Right. They're searching with specificity. And generality usually doesn't satisfy specificity, right? Specific curiosity will not be satisfied by general answers.
Right. And we expect it. I expect it. So I just gloss over, scroll past anything that doesn't speak to me specifically because of everything that you just said.
And it's way more important than it used to be in the past. This wasn't, it's more important now than it was 3 years ago. And 3 years ago is more important than it was 5 years ago. And 5 years ago is more important than it was 10 years ago. So if we take a look at that trend, it keeps getting increasingly important. Mm-hmm. Here's another thought. I don't know that I've had with this amount of clarity. If we're resisting the trend and the trend is increasing in speed, then how much longer should we continue to resist the trend that's picking up speed?
Yeah.
So if specificity and the speed of specificity is continuing to ascend upward, then us trying to fight against the trend of human behavior is probably going to be a losing battle.
Yeah. We'll either we'll roll with it or get rolled over.
Yeah, that's it. That's it right there. All right. Number 2, the second reason. Were you just saying peace? Were you giving me a
2?
Oh, okay.
I did number 1 dance, but it didn't go over well, I don't think.
Oh yeah. I missed the number 1 dance, or maybe I just blocked it out.
Probably the second.
My mind deleted it just to protect me because it tries to protect me from trauma. So number 2, the number 2 reason why you should niche on social media is because of algorithms. If you've been around social media, if you've been looking at how to build your business, you've probably heard the word algorithm. And essentially it just means the rules that platforms use in doing everything that they do. So the algorithms on YouTube favor certain things, and the things that they favor now aren't what they favored last year. Maybe definitely are not what they favored 5 years ago. And the algorithms that YouTube favors are not necessarily the algorithms that Instagram favors,
right?
Or Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok or any of the other platforms. So if you are going to be on somebody else's platform, then you need to play by their rules,
right?
Because their algorithms are to make them money. Let's be really clear about that. Their algorithms are not to change the people's lives, are not to be altruistic and let's just do a good thing. That doesn't mean that some of them don't have, charitable convictions and stuff like that. but their algorithms are to make them money, which is fine. That's their business. And if their business model is going to make them money, then we need to know what makes them money. Because if we put our stuff on their platforms and our stuff won't make them money, then our stuff is not valuable to them. And if our stuff is not valuable to them, they won't promote it.
Right.
A lot of people might not know this, but when we put something out on YouTube or when we put something out on Facebook, a small percentage of our subscribers and fans even see it. Mm-hmm. There's algorithms built in because essentially the platform wants to know if this is going to be something valuable.
Right.
So the way I understand it, now, I don't think any of the platforms actually publish their algorithm. So I don't think anybody actually knows. But the people that study it, they can kind of deduce what the algorithms are based on what works for certain videos or posts or what have you. So based on what I've learned, when we post something, the platform will just test it by sending it to some of our followers. And if it works well, in other words, if it could potentially make the platform money, then it'll send it out to more people.
Correct.
And if it continues to do well, it'll continue sending it out. But if the initial test is a dud, meaning that, let's just use YouTube as an example. If YouTube puts a video out and our subscribers don't seem to like it, either they don't click on and watch it, or they click on and they click off really fast, YouTube sees this video as not valuable. It's not going to even let all the other subscribers know that there was a video. Right. Even if you have the notifications turned on, which I hope you do. Right. And even if you're subscribed to the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see all the notifications.
Right.
And so when we as marketers assume that just because we publish something, everybody knows about it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really dangerous assumption, because it's up to the platforms to determine who gets to see whatever gets posted on the platforms. And the algorithms favor specificity. Like that right there, that should be the shutdown argument. Like, do I need a niche? Where are you going to be? On Facebook. Does Facebook want you to have a niche? Yes.
Yes.
That's your answer. Because you're playing in somebody else's playground. Right. You're playing on somebody else's platform. Mm-hmm. And when you're on somebody else's platform, you follow their rules, right, especially if their rules are going to benefit you. And these algorithms, pretty much across all platforms that I'm aware of, it's all about attention.
Right.
Like we were saying before, it's all about attention. And so when we're scrolling through the platforms, if we have something that's general, it's much less likely to grab attention than if we have something that's specific. So this is just a tremendously important conversation. It's something that's not it's not intuitive for most people. It's not intellectual for most people. The thing that works is quite often the thing that most people are resisting against. And so we generally need support in this. And this is one of the reasons why we actually have like a deep dive training in this conversation. It's all about how to identify who your seeker is, who your target market is. If you don't really know what to do, there's a market matrix that we teach that's been massively valuable for a lot of people. One of our clients just 2 hours ago mentioned that exercise about how to decide between different options. If you're not really quite sure who to go for, there's several different filters that you can use to help you decide where you want to put your focus. So we'll put a card up here and or a link down there to a training about how to find your ideal client, how to find your seeker using our language. And it's a full-on training. It's actually pulled from one of our higher level marketing courses. So it's got handouts and exercises and gives you step-by-step what to do so that you can have the identification and clarification of who your seeker is, so that you can have this specific kind of attraction that we've been talking about in this video. So go check that out. And I think it'll be really, really important for you and your business. And it'll help you do the work, right? It'll help you get in motion and put more stuff out there to create more attraction. So if you buy the argument that we made earlier in this video, that attention is really, really critical and niche specificity is important for attention on the platforms that have the algorithms, then you just got to play by the rules. So you might have a video of how to increase your confidence that's general focus. That's the most amazing, life-changing video ever produced by a human. And if it doesn't have the attention, then nobody will know that it ever existed if you just put it out on these platforms and the platforms don't see the engagement.
Right.
So if you're going to go this route, play by the rules. I mean, it's just as simple as that.
Yes. Yes to all of it. Because I'm not going to engage with something that's not talking to me. I'm not going to engage with the video about how to increase my confidence as a married man because I'm not a married man. So, I mean, it's really very simple. And think about yourself. I mean, I don't know, maybe there are people who engage in things that they're not interested in that don't speak to them. I'm not one of them.
And let me remind you of not just you, Michelle, but
okay,
you know, everybody watching and listening. What's so counter-intellectual is that quite often, if you put out a video of how to raise your confidence as a 40-year-old married man, you would be blown away at how intriguing that is to women or to men who are not married or men who are in their 20s or in their 70s or anything else. What's so fascinating about this is that when you target something with specificity, sometimes it's just the specificity that attracts us, not even the details inside the specificity. And if there's a lot of engagement, like from an algorithm standpoint, if there's a lot of engagement happening, then a lot of times the platforms will start to show that information to other people. And sometimes people will just be brought in by the vortex of the engagement. Right. Even if they don't match the exact target. So that counter-intellectual truth is what a lot of people need to have faith in, that actually you'll be able to attract more people by focusing in specifically on a single person.
Yes. It's 100% my experience.
Right. And it doesn't make any sense. We're just looking back and telling you what works. And this leads into the third thing. The third thing is conversions. Why do you need to niche on social media? Is because specificity converts. Generality entertains, but specificity converts. If you have a business and social media is a way that you want to bring people into your business, the main thing that's going to make you money and grow your business is people coming into your business.
Correct.
It's not people staying on social media or even sharing your stuff. So if you put out some kind of general video that's like super empowering, and maybe it's a 5-minute video and it's inspiring and motivational and so forth, and it's general in nature about just living life, and people can love it. They can be entertained by it. And what most people will do with that general entertainment is enjoy it and probably share it.
Sure.
And maybe talk about it and like it. But that generality usually won't cause people to go to the next level and go, you know what, I got to take the next step here, because there really isn't a next step there. It's hard to have a next step with a general conversation, because you can't invite everybody into the next step because people don't see themselves in the content. Yeah. So if you have a business, then this is another counter-intellectual thing. If you have a business, then you have to understand where your business actually resides. And it doesn't reside on social media. Social media should be an on-ramp into your business. Unless your business is on social media and your business model is about attracting a gigantic crowd and then making money off that crowd. That's usually what celebrities do, you know, reality stars do and so forth. But that model doesn't convert into a business usually for the most, you know, part for most of us. So you got to understand what your business actually is and where your business conversions take place. They take place in your business. They don't take place on social media. So if you want to take people from social media to your business and you want to get them to join an email list, or you want to get them to watch a webinar or something like that, they will need to see themselves in the conversation in order to open the door and go in.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll just take a step back and go, oh, that looks really cool. That's super pretty. And it's exciting and yay, but not open the door and go in.
Right.
So if you want conversions, people coming into a business, people having conversations with you, essentially, if you want to have some version of what I think marketing is really about for most coaches, which is, if you liked that, let me invite you to this.
Right.
But it's, let me invite you specifically to this after having some kind of personal experience. And it's just hard to give people personal experiences that they can really relate to in a general conversation when you're trying to appeal to everybody.
Yeah. I don't know that it's hard. To me, I'm like, is it possible? I mean, I was thinking about when you were talking about fishing, which I actually don't know a lot about, but I'm pretty sure that you need different bait, right? For different fish. Not every fish that you would be trying to catch eats the same thing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's the same concept, right? So whoever you're talking to, what you said, right? Whatever the next step is for me would be different than the next step is for you, depending on where we're at in our journey. So I need the person who's going to meet me on my journey at this point now to give me that message specifically so that I can know what my next step is. That's what's going to make me keep moving forward. And it's the same for all of us. I really believe that.
That's a powerful analogy. I went fishing. I'm not a big fishing person. I went fishing about 1.5 years ago, and part of fishing is just learning the techniques, right? And I didn't really have good techniques, and I couldn't really throw the bait out very far. And in the beginning of the fishing journey for me, it was like, what bait should I choose? There were a couple different options for bait. And in the beginning, it doesn't matter, because you got to figure out how to throw the bait out there. You got to figure out how to use a fishing pole. And none of that matters, or none of that is dependent on the bait, because it doesn't matter what fish you're attracting. You got other muscles that you need to figure out first, and you got other techniques that you need to learn first. But then later on in the fishing trip, I was seeing people take, like, you know, all kinds of different fish was being caught, and I was seeing people catch these different fish. And then I was like, I want to catch one of those fish. So then when I told the instructor, the guide, I want to catch one of those fish, he says, oh, well, you need to use this bait.
Right.
Because you're not going to catch one of those fish with that bait.
Correct.
You're only going to catch the fish that are on the bottom. You're not going to catch the fish that are way out there. And so the analogy that you gave is perfect for this conversation. In the beginning, when you're just learning to fish, yeah, just go ahead and just pick any bait. It doesn't matter. But once you are more clear on what you want, then there's specificity that's required.
Right.
And sometimes that specificity could be in the bait. You just know you want to use this bait. Awesome. If you're committed to that bait, then don't be committed to that fish.
Right.
That won't come for this bait. Right. If you're committed to the fish, then don't be committed to the other bait that you can't catch that fish with. Right. So our commitment can come from either side, but what most of us are trying to do is use one bait, but attract a different fish. Now, if you like this video, check out that video where we talked about whether or not you need a niche in general in your coaching business. If you don't have a niche, marketing is going to be tough. And before we go on, you asked me a question, Michelle, right before we recorded, about how do I even define niche.